Okay.
All right, welcome to the terrorism tier list. So, we're gonna rank some of these terrorist groups based on how epic they are and how well they've terrorized the world. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a bunch of different groups, existent and non existent here. Or non existent,
Mm-hmm.
I mean not active anymore, but.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any words before we start?
Okay. Just for any of the federales or authorities watching this, this is not an endorsement of these groups.
Ah,
Any of them.
yeah.
Not a direct endorsement, but not even an endorsement. We're just basing this based on how terrorizing they really are as groups.
Yep.
Because when you think about it, if you think about like the whole concept of terrorism as a political activity, for it to work, you gotta it's it kind of demands infamy, a certain
You
level
gotta
of
get people's
infamy.
attention, right? You gotta get
Yeah.
people's attention.
And sometimes though the attention they get, yeah, good or bad, mostly bad. Sometimes there's some people there who might think it's good, but otherwise, yeah, we're this list is just mainly to write their ability to get attention for good and for ill.
All right. That being, I
Okay,
think
let's
we've
go.
added sufficient
We
disclaimers. So, all right, first group, YPJ. YPJ. So they're the Kurdish Workers' Party,
yeah, they're the
or no, the
Kurdish workers.
Democratic Front of uh, Kurdistan.
Yeah,
So,
so they're classed as a terrorist group, mostly by Turkey
yep,
and I think Iraq
yeah, Iraq doesn't like them
and
either.
Iran.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
nobody likes the Kurds
yeah.
in the Middle East.
Uh, Yeah, because basically it's one of the problems of having an ethnic group that has like land in multiple countries. So, but the thing is, yeah, outside of that though, yeah, by and
Yeah,
large, they aren't really a mega
yeah,
global terror group. So,
yeah. They also worked with the U.S., which is
hmm
cringe, very unterror, very unbased of them. Um,
so
Meh. They go in the
yeah,
meh
meh.
category.
It goes meh.
Okay. So next is Mossad.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
they are in the state category, so they're part of a state. But depending on
hmm
how um, anti-Semitic you are, they may or may have not done 9/11.
hmm Well, basically, if you're part of that tendency that claims Jews are responsible for everything. They basically see Mossad in everything.
Mm,
But sometimes at the same time, I just find it funny that they do have that reputation. Like if if they want you gone, like more chances are they did do it.
that's true. That's true. They can
So
definitely
in
get.
that regard, so funnily enough, in that regard, I would put them rather high because it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, they have that reputation, and whether you hate them or love them, they get shit done. So.
Yeah. For me, it's a based. They're based.
Mm, mhm.
I definitely wouldn't want to be tracked down by Mossad. I feel like that would be scary.
Yeah, if you got their attention, uh, yeah, it
Yeah,
works. It's you're done
you're
basically.
deep doo doo. Okay.
Okay, next, who are these dudes?
This is the a women's branch of ISIS. So you've got some gender representation in ISIS as well. They apparently have their own
Mm-hmm.
battalion or had their own battalion. I don't know if they're still active, but worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Uh, well, the thing is though, yeah, their existence would be an anomaly to to the popular image of ISIS. But the thing is, beyond, I think that's also part of why they should go to the lower end of the scale, though, because
Yeah,
barely anyone knew they exist.
yeah.
And to be honest, yeah, I'm not entirely certain how important they were in the grand scheme of ISIS things. So,
Yeah,
yeah, probably put
it's a
them,
fail for me.
Yeah, and I think it didn't. And to be honest, I think their existence did not change like
Yeah,
ISIS
ISIS
fortunes.
is very good at making women invisible, and they are invisible to the world, even though they have their own
Uh,
battalion.
yeah.
So
So fail it goes.
sorry, girls. Okay,
Yeah.
this is Al Shabaab. This is Al Shabaab.
Uh huh.
Okay, they had
Okay, maybe
that.
let's give them a quick like. Let's give the audience like a quick who the heck are Al Shabaab?
They did that mall bombing in Nigeria, was it? Or is that?
Yeah, yeah. So this group operates mainly in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Sahel region
Yep,
specifically. And their main enemy, their main state enemy is Nigeria.
yep.
Or is it Nigeria or another country like the guys operating in the oh wait, no, the guys operating in the east, that's a different group, right? The one operating
Yeah,
in Somalia.
yeah. I think
Wait, let
Boko
me check.
Haram is.
Hold on. Let's just check. I mean, if we're gonna be
Yeah,
memeing, we gotta be memeing, right?
yep.
Uh, Al Shabaab, football club from Houthi movement. Hold on. Topics referred by the same groups. Ah, here we go. Oh, sorry. We're in the wrong side of Africa.
Oh,
The
okay.
Africans will get mad at us. Uh, Al Shabaab is in Somalia.
Yeah, okay, Somalia.
So basically, they're the guys. They're the guys basically fighting whatever is left of the Somalian government, and they're also fighting Kenya.
Okay. Well,
So,
I'd say they have their work cut out for them. I mean, they've done a lot of quite a bit of terror, but they're not that well known. Like I don't I'm like
yeah,
Al
the
Al
fact that we
Shabaab
just
who, you know, like who cares?
yeah, the fact, dude, that we just like put them on the other side of Africa.
The fact that you have to research
So,
them is already a bad sign.
and also because in the greater scheme of things, man, in Somalia, the more infamous people there are the pirates, and
That's true.
Shabab aren't. Well, let me check. Do they engage in piracy membership? No. Oh no, they don't. As far as I can tell, if they do engage in piracy, it seems to be like minimal. They're not the pirates.
Dang, we
Oh,
should
here we go.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not the pirates. Sadly. Oh, we should have put pirates, but the thing is, they're not one group, but hell, so are the incels.
Yeah, that's true. Uh, Somalian pirates, dude. More people know about Somalian pirates than your terror group. You're meh,
Yeah,
meh.
yeah.
Just a
So
meh.
meh.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is Al Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. So they're the
Mm-hmm.
more elite Hamas forces.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
I
these
mean,
are the guys
okay. So
who.
they
Oh,
did 710. They did 710. I'm pretty sure.
oh. So yeah, that kind of makes them infamous, I think.
I definitely think
But
they're okay. If they're
hmm,
Hamas and they're part of Hamas, then um,
does that? So do we attribute the success or the infamy, and rather the the outcome of
let's
710 to these
just yeah,
guys?
let's just say they're Hamas for now. Okay,
All right.
so okay, one thing I have to say is that the 10-7 attacks were really ingeniously planned. Like, okay, they did a lot of fucked up shit, a lot of grape, a lot of killing of hippies in that festival, and a lot of other
Mm-hmm.
bad things. But man, the planning that went into it, they used drones to like destroy those Israeli guard towers, and then they used those
Mm-hmm.
like wacky parachutes to like glide in and like. It sounds like something out of Star Wars. They're like the Rebel Alliance from Star Wars with their crafty tactics, except that they're going to go like and grape people and go on like
Yeah,
crazy killing sprees. Um,
it's basically like Sith terrorists essentially.
yeah, exactly. But it's like they also did this thing where they like got everyone to pretend that they were not gonna attack, and they were like broadcasting it to the Israelis, so they were able to dupe the Israelis into a sense of complacency.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, as a plan, it was rather complex, to be honest. And
Yeah,
I think it just part of the reason 710 became as awful as it did was basically because that successful deception.
true. Terrific
So where
for
does
me.
that put them?
Terrific.
Yeah, they're really terrorizing people. So yeah.
Okay. All right, next. Antifa. Antifa. Um,
Okay, we have to note here that when we're talking Antifa, Antifa isn't like a one organization, because I think that's
that's
what their
true.
opposite numbers in the far right often kind of like misattribute or something. Like there's this
Yeah.
massive hive mind of like
Of like
people calling themselves Antifa, like they just hate white people or something like that. But in
exactly.
reality, more often than not, it's like actually they're mirrors of each other. Really,
Yeah.
these are
I mean,
mostly decentralized weirdos.
they range from being really awesome in terms of like destroying public property and uh, beating up people to just being super cringe,
Mm-hmm.
annoying liberals basically. So
Yeah, so it's an
somewhere in
umbrella.
between, like it's like sometimes they do really awesome stuff, like the Black
Mm-hmm.
Bloc protests against the
Mm-hmm.
in Belgium, where they like
Mm-hmm.
went and like protested against the World Bank. That was cool. That was actually cool.
Mm-hmm.
And other times you've got like these cringed soy milk drinker mustachio guys, like whatever, parading around the streets. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me.
So is it mixed enough for you to put them in the meh? Or to be
Mm,
honest, yeah, I'm thinking of putting them in meh. And I'm also thinking of putting them in fail. You want to know why?
yeah,
Because basically, I don't know if we're looking at your objective wise, they've sort of
yeah.
failed.
Fascism is everywhere. So what the heck are you guys
To
even
be
doing?
yeah, and to be honest, it's like yeah, an honest critique for a bit. Some it basically like yeah, they're mirror images of each other to the point that I think if one exists, the other follows.
True.
So far from limiting fascism, you're making it worse.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, next one.
Okay, everybody's favorite terrorist group, my favorite terrorist group, ISIS.
Yeah,
Geez, I mean,
this is like the whole the main group, right?
yeah,
This is the
yeah,
main group that lived in Syria and Iraq and
yep.
did their thing.
Still active,
Okay.
actually. I mean,
Hmm.
for me, it's an obvious S tier. Like, it's just think about all they did. They created like a whole state full of slavery, grape, torture, and
Mhm.
many other forms of epic win. Um, they were able to
Mm.
dupe Westerners into coming to join their ridiculous like caliphate, and they had like awesome propaganda videos, really good like high quality production. Like I remember in 2016 seeing ISIS on TV, and people were freaking out. They thought it was like the apocalypse, with and then like the
Mhm.
Jihadi John or Jihad,
Mhm.
yeah, and those scary tall guys with all black, and it's like their whole aesthetic was just so good. And then this whole thing about like bringing out about the new, you know, um, whatever, bringing about the new caliphate, and they even made their own gold-backed currency. Now, what what anti-government person can't celebrate them for that? Like they had their own currency and it was gold back. So for me,
Yeah,
it's
they basically touch all they touch all the fantasies of like every contrarian and anti basically contrarian anti-state group you can find out there. Hell, they're basically GLA in real life.
exactly.
Well, which unfortunately that's the thing though. If you live near them, GLA in real life turns out to be rather terrifying.
That's true.
But yeah, that's the thing is in that regard, it also adds to that sort of like the whole point of putting them in Epic Wing is because even up to now, people are still talking about
That's
them.
right. Yeah.
Like, even though let's be honest, yeah, despite all those things that they were able to so accomplished in such a short period. At the same time, it was ultimately very short lived. They
Yep.
were effectively crushed.
Yeah, they were.
But that being said, every now and then you'll still hear some people talking about them as if there's still a chance they'll come back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow ISIS returned.
Yeah, that's basic. Yeah, that's basically what they've become because, and I guess that's the pitfall with what they did. That in making a state, they basically made
Yep,
something that you could topple.
exactly. But yeah,
Whereas Al Qaeda, sure, like Al Qaeda's like, it wasn't Al Qaeda here, by the
Al
way.
Qaeda's here. This is Al Qaeda.
All right, right. Well, I'll say that for later, but yeah, basically that's the thing with ISIS. So, okay, next.
Okay. Aryan Brotherhood. Okay.
These guys, what was their objective? Like, I mean, I know them like from afar. Like, I know the kind of just they're like some kind of white
Yeah,
supremacist group,
they're
but
they're a gang. And they also do some like hate crime or something.
yeah, that's
Um,
usually what they end up doing.
I mean, when was the last time? Like, honestly, society is just so racist already without them that it's not like I don't know if they like really contributed a whole lot.
Yeah, to be honest, I think they're kind of like I,
They're
I
like
mean,
vintage racism kind of
in
corner.
that regard, I probably put them in the either actually no, not fail. They're not grow. They weren't so catastrophic in failure that like because they're still around and they're still a threat. I think, but yeah, you're right. Like, given the state of society now, they're pretty. They're pretty. They are meh.
Meh, meh.
Yeah, they are. They are meh.
I would even say fail or meh,
Uh,
meh, just meh.
yeah, meh. Meh, I think is like a bigger punishment for them.
Okay, next, Aum Shinrikyo.
Oh yeah, these guys. Yeah, I remember when you put out the call to start conceptualizing this. I immediately thought of them. That's why I asked if we could have
Yep.
like defunct groups. They're I think yeah, they're rather infamous because they're like the first or one of the first known modern post Cold War terror groups to basically resort to chemical weapons.
Yeah, that is
I,
definitely
I,
one for the books.
and to be honest, like it's you gotta like give it well I don't really like give it to them like it's a good thing but yeah just the fact that they were able to assemble chemical weapons and apparently the people who did the attack were not stupid or like they're not what you would fit the usual profile of terrorists like these were guys with degrees
Yeah,
and jobs
yeah.
and
I mean, this is reaching like anime villain levels of super villainy. So
and in that regard speaking of anime they have an anime
that's right. They have their own anime. How many
they have
terrorists?
their own anime.
I think just based on
So
like yeah,
just by what they did, I think you could put it based, I
yeah.
guess, even if they did die in the end.
Yeah, they did not succeed in their goals, but I think that just like how unique they are, they're like
Hmm.
in a world where the metagame is just Islamic jihad, these guys are like the
Hmm.
off spec, right? They're running the off meta build. Very cool.
Well, to be fair, though, they predate. Well, not really predate.
Ah, that's true.
They sort of, if you look at the timelines, well, you could say they sort of predate Islamic terrorism because Om Shinrikyo is like before they did their
That's
attacks,
actually
they
a
were
good
like
point.
around since like 1996.
That's true.
They were like before the Cold War. They were already active, and I think based on some of the documents that they found when they started like cracking down on the cult,
Mm.
like this guy had this their leader Shoko Asahara basically had plans to start his own little World War III before Al Qaeda probably even conceived of the possibility of attacking America.
Okay, based,
Yeah,
very based.
based. That's based enough.
Okay, next, chuds,
This must die.
chuds. They're
Billions must die.
chuds are just
Yeah.
kind of like weaker incels, basically, right? They're just incels that post on Reddit instead of taking action.
Yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing about them, basically. I mean, that's why they're so super memed. Like, they're basically keyboard warrior incels.
Yeah, I see.
Although the funny thing is, yeah, if depending on who you talk to, supposedly, yeah, it was based on a real dude who did do an active shooting thing. So, but yeah, it kind of just makes it worse because, yeah,
Chuds are pretty
yeah,
cringe. I'd say pathetic.
pathetic. Yeah,
Pathetic.
they're our first pathetic group.
Okay. Um. Next. Uh.
CDS,
Yeah.
Cartel de Sinaloa, our first Latin American entry.
Yep.
Well, as for those of us, those of you watching who don't know, the Sinaloa are, of course, a cartel from Mexico that's involved in the illicit drug trade. Uh, they're interesting though because yeah, they're currently the most powerful group, no, powerful like cartel supposedly in Mexico, and they also managed to fight the Mexican army to a standstill.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the battle. Yeah, it's actually called the Battle of Culiacan, where basically the Mexicans tried to capture Ovidio Lopez, the son of El Chapo, basically.
Hmm.
And well, they got him in the end, but it's kind of interesting because I mean, it's the Mexican army. You would think like an army versus cartel. Like, without thinking of context, you'd think that the army should win easily, right?
Yep.
But when you look at what happened, basically the Sinaloans were able to like do a mini Marawi,
Yeah.
and that they essentially briefly for a day took over Culiacan.
Hmm.
And yeah, the casual. Well, if you look at the Wikipedia like article for it, they you would think like it should have been a slam dunk, but it wasn't. So, although funnily enough, only not that many people died. Thankfully, only like two Mexican soldiers, eight Sinaloa, and like four civilians died, which is still sad. But at the very least, it for how many people were involved, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
But just the fact that a cartel man was able to fight a national army to a standstill, I think earns them some points, I guess,
Yeah.
in this funny scale of ours.
Terrific for me.
Probably terrific. Well, because they're also, oh yeah, the reason I also bring them up is because yeah, they have a wide reach for a cartel, not just in America or Mexico or in the rest of Latin America, but they even got here in the Philippines, where no less than
That's
the former
crazy.
president Dutz himself was like acknowledging that they're here.
Yeah.
So much
That's
for his war on drugs.
yeah, that's crazy. Definitely terrific. Also scary too.
Yeah, basically. I mean, basically for if you strip away like they're a non-religious, non-political group that happens to be who happens to wield more power than a lot of the actual political and ideological and religious terrorist groups in this list.
Hmm. Should we put them on epic win? They're starting to sound pretty epic after that description.
Possibly, because well, you could make there's a good
Let's.
you could actually you could because they kind of succeed.
Yeah,
and
that's true. The
I mean,
Mexican.
the funny thing about the cartel is, yeah, they're not really out for power. They're just out to make money. And if
Yeah,
you look at the state of the illicit drug trade,
that's
they're
true.
making a buttload of money for
That's
better
true.
and for worse.
That's true. Okay, epic
So
win.
yeah, they get that just because they're the yeah, like I just described. They're a non-religious, non-ideological, non-political group that's wielding more power than any of the than some of these actual political terrorist groups, and they're succeeding.
Mm-hmm. True.
Even
True.
ISIS can claim that.
That's true. That's true. Okay, next.
Next,
Uh, Chet, Republic of Icheria or Rebels of Icheria, Chechnyan rebels.
I'm inclined to, well, to be honest, the okay, for those who probably missed their basic history or are from the other side of the new Iron Curtain, uh, the Icarian rebels are basically the guys who wanted to break away from Russia.
Yep.
This is back in the 1990s, post Soviet Union. With the whole thing with the post Soviet Union and all the chaos, the Icarians, the Chechens, basically they're Muslims, and Russia is a
Yep.
majority Orthodox or atheist, depending on who you're measuring. Really, country. They wanted to separate. They wanted to form their own country. They were able to win it actually in the first Chechen War.
Yeah.
That's why they even had a Republic of Icaria in the first place. They were able to win their independence the first time around.
That's true.
So I think
For me,
that gives them base cred. It's just
they're just a
unfortunate
bit
for
pretty
them that they lost.
yeah, and they got integrated into the Russian state ultimately,
Yeah,
which
and
is kind of cringe. So for me,
yeah,
I'd say meh. Also, who the heck knows even what this is? To be
no,
fair,
that's true too. I mean, losing is bad for like your street cred.
yeah,
Losing the second war was bad for your street cred,
yep,
and now they're like, if there's any of them still alive, I don't know if they like regret anything. And besides, like now, Chechnya is just like Chechnya is just like basically cadre of land now.
true, true.
So yeah. All
Anyway,
right, next.
Chinese triads.
This is not all of them. We're just
Yeah,
picking a representative. Like
yeah.
the
This
Chinese
is
triads. Yeah.
um. I feel like they're just not that infamous. Like I don't hear anything in the news about like Chinese triads or anything like that.
Mm.
And
I mean,
yeah, the Chinese government are bigger criminals than the triads. So
to be honest, yeah, I think the funny thing is if I recall, they're just like I think they were famous like during the heyday of the 70s and 80s.
yeah, exactly.
During the during the I think their fame, at least in the non-Chinese speaking world, is like mostly a byproduct of their use in
Mm-hmm.
like various karate movies as like villains and stuff like that.
Yeah. For me, fail.
Fail,
Okay. The good
of
old
course, everyone's favorite three-letter agency.
yeah. Um,
Three-letter agency on the Western world.
yeah. So of the stuff that we do know about the CIA, they have done a shit ton of like destabilizing things to various different
Mm-hmm.
governments. They're every schizophrenic's favorite um, agencies that's spying on them,
Mm-hmm.
and they may or may have not done 9/11. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's part of like that's part of the laundry list of your if you're like thinking of who's responsible for whatever or big deal thing is happening, they usually have to be at least in the consideration.
yep, I think the CIA is pretty awesome. For me,
Mm.
it's terrific, but they're cringe because they're part of a state. So
So probably just put them
let's
what
put them in terrific
base.
or based. Based
Okay.
is okay. Based is fine.
Yeah, I mean to be honest, actually my thinking is like they're they're essentially just a state org. And to be
Yeah,
honest, even the CIA, if you look at the things that they're accused of doing with what could be observed that they're actually capable of doing,
yeah.
and you sometimes think
I think there's a lot
I'm
of
kind of
like,
disappointed.
yeah, they're kind of there's a bit of threat inflation going on there. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people
Yeah,
don't talk about their failures, which are quite a lot too.
quite a lot. And
Yeah,
no, and to be honest, yeah, it's for me. It's always funny when someone like tells me that it's the CIA is doing this. Really, then why are they having such a hard time, right?
yep. Okay, next. Okay,
Next,
so
our
um,
second Latin American organization.
yeah, so they're another cartel. Um, they're like the Sinaloa cartel, but they're really known for torturing people. They release a lot of torture videos. They love torturing, which is, I have to say, that's pretty awesome. Um, I think that like they're not that well known, so they kind of make up for it by like putting out more torture videos. So
Uh
that's
huh.
kind of, that's kind of cringe in a way. But
And,
um,
and also, though, they're like a relatively new cartel
yeah,
group, right?
yeah. So I think that
Meh.
I mean, yeah, I like, okay, I wouldn't want to be tortured by them, you know. I'd be pretty,
Hmm.
but I think they're overdoing it with the torture. That's like their only selling point. They got to do more. They got to do more
Yeah,
like other stuff. Anyway,
I mean, as the fictional cartel baron El Sueño from Tom Clancy's Wildlands would say, the first purpose of a cartel is to make money, not
yeah,
torture people.
true.
So I guess in that regard, if you look at the basic objective of a cartel, you're kind of not good.
Yeah,
So yeah, they get the meh.
meh. Okay, hopefully no cartel members are watching this. Anyway,
Well, yeah.
yeah, so oops. Well, okay, incels. Incels.
Okay.
Um, so we all know what incels are. They're
Mm-hmm.
involuntary celibates, and they
Mm-hmm.
are basically the epitome of cringe. They're, but they are dangerous. An incel
Mm-hmm.
can take out a bunch of people like pretty easily, and it's kind of a meme phenomenon at this point. Like a lot of people know what incels are, so they got people's attention. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're not an organized group, but more like an ideology, I guess. So
Would it really be? I'm well. Yeah, more. Yeah, they're basically like an ideology. You sad boy. They're basically the sad boy, the militant sad
yep.
boys.
I mean,
And yeah,
fail for me.
yeah, I would say they're
They're just
failed.
a little bit better than Chuds. They're just the more, if like
Yeah.
Chuds like leveled up a little, that's what they would be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, MILFs, MILF,
All
Moro
right, right.
Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Um,
Yeah, the group with the most unfortunate acronym. Well, one of the more unfortunate acronyms.
yeah,
If you like translating it to the outside of their
yeah,
territory. uh, to be honest, they on the one hand they sort of succeeded in that they got something approximating what they wanted, which is
true,
autonomy and a seat in the table.
yeah,
But at the same time, though, well, time would tell if they're actually able to make something of it. I mean, the same was said before. I think of their predecessor, the MNLF,
that's true.
and
Yep,
they kind of squandered that. So
yeah. I
I think
mean,
just getting themselves into an agreement without something that looks like a massive defeat
yeah,
is basic. I think.
based, yeah, based. Also, yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
okay, wait. Quick break. Quick break. Okay, continuing on.
All right.
FARC. Um, I think for me, like, they had a good run, selling drugs to fund their terrorist operation,
Mm-hmm.
being jungle commies for a while, but they ultimately
Mm-hmm.
got defeated and they made a deal with the government. So, I'm sorry, but in my book, that's a fail.
Yeah, they basically did fail, and well, on the one hand, though, yeah, they did fail. But if I
Yeah,
recall, though, recently, the funny thing is, wait, let me look it up because I remember like these guys. They funny thing is, even though they dissolved militarily as of 2017, they still have some dissidents. But yeah, it's mostly just like dissidents, and I guess now they're just like settling into that role as being some kind of party.
Yeah.
And at this, and the funny thing is, I guess another, I guess something that would reinforce their fail is that they were not, they were so not loved by their own, by their people that even though I don't know, this is the thing I remembered now. They had a peace deal, right?
Yep.
The Colombians voted on it. They rejected
Oh
it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So imagine being such a group, being a group that even your own, even if the margins were slim, just the fact that there's a large majority of the country that doesn't like you
Yeah,
and doesn't want peace with you, but yet you didn't achieve anything. Yeah, I
exactly.
think it reinforces that it's fail. Sorry, you
Fail.
go into the failures.
Yeah. Um. Uh. Kurdistan Worker Party. They're like
These are the farther right and the
the
farther
farther
left.
left, the farther left Kurds.
Mm.
They did that. Uh. That like massive strike in Turkey at one point, which like rustled a lot of jimmies of the Turks.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also they were combating ISIS as well as doing some other stuff. For me,
Mm-hmm.
they're just okay. They're just okay. They're not very notable.
Yeah, I guess that goes into meh.
Meh, yeah, meh. They're here with
Yeah, that goes
the
into
other
meh.
Kurdish party. Okay,
Mm.
another banger. This is Al Qaeda, the organization, the
Yeah,
the
the or the
OGs.
base
Yeah, the
or the
base.
base.
Yeah. They. I mean, it's in the word. They're based.
Mhm.
I mean, for you can't beat a classic. You know, they're just so iconic at this point. Osama is just has to be one of the most
He's
like he's a pop icon now. He's like the Michael
for
Jackson.
better
He's
and
like the
for
Michael
worse.
Jackson of terrorism. You know. So
Yeah, I mean, he's actually that's where you could like use the somehow Bin Laden returned
yep.
because in the wake of this, the wake of the ongoing war in Israel and Gaza, there was a weird resurgence of like TikTok people like basically quoting him,
Yeah, that's right. People were like, like
quoting him,
yeah,
and I
yeah, like bringing back his like ideology and stuff. So it's crazy.
so it basically it's one of those things that yeah, and to for me cap up what I said earlier on the ISIS part is that whereas ISIS ultimately got destroyed or at least severely weakened because they basically gave themselves a target in the form of the quasi state that they built.
Yep.
Al Qaeda is still resilient in part because it's hard to knock them down, and even if you knock down like a cell or their local affiliates, another affiliate will just come back.
Yeah.
So they're the quintessential somehow Palpatine returned of terrorism.
Yep. Good stuff. S tier. Um. Okay. Red Brigades. For those of you who don't
Which
know,
red, yeah, who are these guys?
Italian Red Brigades, the very infamous communist terrorists from
Mm-hmm.
Italy in like the 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They did a bunch of bombings, and they were really close to actually turning Italy communist. And they had like supports from the Soviets and stuff, and but then they were kind of killed off by Operation Gladius. So
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
pretty terrifying at the time, but they didn't succeed. But then they did like do a lot of damage, and they did like cause a lot of terror at the time. But I mean, the fact that nobody knows who they are today is kind of eh.
Yeah, that's kind of a strike. That's like kind of a major strike
Yeah,
against them.
they
And
really
also, they didn't have a legacy, did they?
yeah they really need to buff communism. Communism is not like very strong in this terrorism meta.
Lol.
The devs of the world need to buff it. Anyway,
Hmm.
next.
All right.
Um,
Okay. Furries.
furries. Um, yeah.
I mean, there's the funny thing about they're basically like just they're basically demonized in public as pedos in costumes or
Yeah.
bestial
Also,
people in costumes.
there was that incident at Rainforest. It was like
Yes, rainforest. It's like,
apparently there. Yeah, there was a lot of damage caused by furries at the time, and I don't know if it
yep,
was Rainforest or a different one, but someone actually did a terrorist attack on a furry convention. So indirectly, they're actually causing terrorism as well by causing people
really.
to. Yeah, they someone like set off like I think like toxic gas in the
The fuck?
yeah
Wow.
in like the convention center because he wanted to like kill the furries, and they never figured out who did it. But yeah, I think that just the level of psychological terror furries caused, and apparently like um, gay furries also hacked the U.S. government nuclear like system or something like that. They declared
That's
them.
very
Yeah,
interesting.
they declare themselves as gay furries. So I think that furries are pretty horrifying. I'd say terrific for me.
Yeah, horrific.
Terrific. Yeah. I kind of want to put Red Brigades actually in base because now that I think about it, they did a lot more than these Workers' Party guys here. Actually, never mind.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. PETA.
These guys,
Yeah.
the so-called animal liberationists.
Yeah. PETA's pretty. I you know, I I just
Cringe.
they're just so cringe. Like they're like the most
Yeah,
cringe that you can get. And
yeah.
I
That's
can't remember the last what have they done really? Like they set some animals free or something.
well, I know them mainly because they destroy animals too.
That's true. They also euthanize a lot of animals.
They euthanize lots of animals, and basically, sometimes I get the feeling like I don't think they really help the cause that much.
True. For me, it's a
So
fail or pathetic.
fail,
Fail.
fail.
Okay. Um. Okay. MI6.
Of course. The other, well, no, they're not a three-letter agency. They're two letters and a number. Of
Hmm.
course, I think a lot of the same things you could say about CIA and Mossad, you could say about MI6. Like
True.
they have, I guess actually I would put MI6 somewhere between CIA and Mossad. Like Mossad is basically the real deal, but
Yeah.
they're very simplistic because their
Hmm.
job they're not a hegemon. They're not in
Yeah.
the service of a hegemon, so they're very simple. But then you have CIA with all this threat inflation. MI6, I think, has more cred than CIA, but not as much as Mossad. So
Okay. Let's
yeah,
put
put them in
them
base.
there. Yeah.
Just put them there.
Yeah. Okay. Hamas. Hamas. So Hamas in general, aside from,
So where you want to put them?
I hmm they can just be up here with Al Aqsa brigades, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, actually, to be honest, whatever you usually say about Al Aqsa is actually attributed to Hamas.
That's true. I mean, they're the same organization. Okay, the thing about
Yeah.
Hamas though is that they get a lot of media mileage for sure,
Hmm.
and a lot of people sympathize with them. So that's kind of a, you know, they have a good
Hmm.
media arm. So I'll give them that.
Yeah.
They're up there. They're up there and terrific. Okay, Hezbollah. Okay,
Hezbollah.
one thing I gotta say about Hezbollah, their music is
Hmm.
banging. Like whenever they release like a track, like a terrorism track of them like blowing up a car bomb or like shooting an RPG, they always have like this really good like it's like like EDM kind of, but then it's like mixed with like Islamic chanting, and it's like wow, really good. So
Mm.
just for that, you know, I like them. But
So they're more of a music.
yeah, they're like the Clash of terrorism or something like that, you know, or
Lol.
like or they're like
That's a way to describe them.
that's the way that's or not the Clash, but like they're like Prodigy, you know.
Mm.
But the
So where
problem,
would you put
the
them?
yeah, the problem with them is that when was the last time you heard about Hezbollah? Like hardly ever. Like they're just not. I mean, they're the. I guess they're kind of in the news with Lebanon and stuff, and they're kind of threatening, but only to Israel. They're not like for me based. Based is fine.
They're basically the thing with them. I
Yeah,
think is that they're just kind of sort of they're very parochial. If you
yeah,
think about it, they don't got any like grand scheme of conquest or domination
yeah.
in the way something like Al Qaeda or ISIS do.
Hmm.
They just they're just like your run of the mill national ultra nationalist group. So
True. Um. Okay. Next. This is Houthis. Yemen.
these
Yemenis.
guys.
Okay. So actually, a lot of achievements. They defeated the Saudis. Um. They basically hijacked that one like Israeli oil tanker recently. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that one.
yeah. So
What knocks them down though is that whatever they do tends to be attributed to Iran,
that's
for better
true.
and for worse.
That's true.
Like essentially the thing about the Houthis is it's kind of hard for them to shake off that shadow of Iran.
Yeah. Um.
And on the other side, and on the other hand, guys, we're talking about like meme achievements. They're one of the participants in the first ever quote unquote space battle.
Oh, really?
To be specific, that's what the media and some of the one of the defense media are saying, which is I think hilarious enough itself. But basically speaking, they tried to fire a ballistic. They fired a bunch of ballistic missiles at Israel because
Mm-hmm.
they want to be included in the whole Gaza thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they fired a bunch of ballistics, and then Israel fired its own counter ballistics, and they met each other in space, and they're counting that as a space battle.
Interesting. I find that really
So
fascinating.
yeah, uh, that's your quasi state because they sort of have some control of
Yeah.
Yemen, but
I
they're
think.
not really the yeah. But
Yeah.
just the fact that you're doing that, that you're already
That's
you're being attributed to be the first space battle ever,
I
even if it's a missile intercept
okay.
go.
I think
It's like
that's based.
I
That's
think that's
based.
based in now.
Let's put them above MILF here. There are tiers within
Yeah, because
tiers.
yeah,
Actually, even I
just participating in the space battle
yeah,
is
that
enough.
that is pretty awesome. Okay, TikTok. TikTokers are a known like terrorist organization which commits awful pranks and
Oh
uploads
yeah,
all
dude,
sorts
like
of diseased, cursed content.
the deviant licks thing, right? That's
Yeah,
that's
like I
basically
mean,
what it's called.
you had the you know nutmeg challenge. You had the jumping off boats challenge. They've caused a lot of death. They've probably caused more death than like some of these other groups. To be fair, um,
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I'm not comfortable giving them the base because basically, for you to have TikTok for me is enough to like knock down your credibility by several dozen
that's true.
points.
It is an incredibly cringe. So
And it's like there was a study, man, that basically showed that like TikTok does not actually like I forgot the exact name, but it basically said like TikTok does more damage to an economy than if it didn't exist. Basically, something to the effect like the amount of energy that's being diverted by TikTok is basically dragging down economies.
I believe that.
So it's actively harmful. So I don't want to put them in based, but I don't think they deserve a meh just because they're too big to be meh.
You're
So what do,
making
what
them
do we
sound
put
kind of.
them?
You're making them sound awesome.
Oh,
I
it's
want to put
then
them
terrific
here.
then, right with the furries. Put them right next
Yeah.
to the furries then.
All right. Continuing.
IRS.
IRS. Okay. Nobody likes paying taxes.
And
And
they're kind of like more dangerous if you think about it than the CIA.
yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And
Um,
they're actually also arguably more successful because they eventually get you at least unless you're like one of the 0.001%.
yeah. Um, I mean, taxes are pretty terrifying. Everyone needs to pay them. I mean, they are
Mm-hmm.
a symbol of government dominance, basically
I
over the
mean, dude,
world.
it's like the saying goes: there's only two constants in the world: death and taxes.
Yep.
And I think just by that alone, I think they probably deserve like TikTok level.
The taxes are terrifying. They
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be in TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a little bit less scary than TikTok
Yeah,
because
they
taxes
don't. They
actually
don't.
help the
Yeah,
economy.
yeah. They're not actively diminishing your economy just by existing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next one.
This is Mauta Group. So Filipino ISIS. They did the Marawi,
Yeah,
Marawi, and um, yeah. What do you think? I mean,
to be honest, I mean, the thing is, they crash and burn faster than ISIS.
that's
That's
true.
points against them, to be honest. And
Yeah,
even their reason for existing is kind of not good for me. In that they're literally just they're just sore they lost an election.
that's true. Yeah,
That's basically the core of like how they started. So
yeah. They kind of suck, dude.
fail,
Fail,
they fail. So
fail.
yeah,
Um,
next one.
Taliban. So Taliban is. I think that they're pretty. I mean, they have so much achievements. They created their own state. They basically beat the Americans. It took a long time, but they got the Americans to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that they're just confined to Afghanistan, basically.
They're kind of like Hezbollah in that regard.
Yeah,
Really, like they're just your run of the mill religious ultra nationalists.
that's true. Pretty boring. And now that they've become a state, it's like they've retired from terrorism. They're boring now.
Isn't that isn't that the thing about them in social media now? They're basically complaining about having to run a state.
Yeah, and they seem to be pretty bad at it too, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
So sorry, guys. Actually, even I would even say like meh.
yeah.
Maybe if this was the '90s or early 2000s, I'd give them a higher rank. But they're they're grandpas now. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Army of the Righteous. Um, they're
Where did they fight?
they're the Syrian rebels who are Salafists. So basically, they're like the like the Syrian rebels. You know, at first they were like mostly moderates, whatever, or they
Mm-hmm.
were being portrayed as moderates, but then this group kind of just sort of absorbed everyone and took over. I don't know the exact like breakdown of the splinter ones, but if I remember correctly, Army of the Righteous was the biggest. Also, their name is super
Okay.
cool. The cool name. I just wanted to say
It
I like
it's
saying Army of
it's
the Righteous. Sounds
it
badass.
sounds like an army that belongs in 40K.
Yeah, they sound like, or they're like a group of paladins or something.
Yeah, but the thing is, I guess, like with Hezbollah and Taliban, they're basically just in one country.
Yeah, like also who knows this group? Like for me,
Yeah, I
meh.
mean the problem is I think if you yeah, and come on, Army of the Righteous, while it sounds cool, the problem is it's also rather generic.
Yeah, let's just
Like
yeah. There's
everybody
so
claims that
many.
they're righteous.
Yeah, there's so many of these groups. Whatever. Okay. The
Mhm.
IRA.
Ah, yes, these guys.
Um, not Roth IRA, but the traditional
Yeah, the
IRA.
traditional IRA.
Well, I guess they kind of achieved their goals, right? They kind of
They they got yeah, well, they kind of achieved it, but at the same time they haven't achieved it. And if you think about it, yeah, a lot of like what's going on in Ireland right now can be traced back to what they did. So they have that in, and hey, that they're that weird group that somehow manages to get like not not even cynical support but earnest support from the United States.
Yeah.
Partly
Weird.
because like there's a lot of Irish in America.
Yeah. What do you
But on the
think?
other hand, they kind of like yeah, when they just like eventually disbanded, and I guess that's they probably go to the same fate as the Taliban for me.
Yeah.
Like basically once the fight is done, that's basically where you end up.
True. True.
And they're not even and to be honest, they're not even benefiting from like the politics in Ireland. Like Sean Fain is like the dominant party or one of the big parties there, but it's not them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get the meh.
Is it Sinn Fein or Sinn Fein? Might be.
Sorry to any Irish who ever hear this. My apologies, my sincere apologies. I am not Irish, so I don't know how to pronounce that. But let me look it up
Whatever.
just to be sure. It's pronounced. Oh, it's pronounced Sinn Fein.
Sinn Fein. Sinn
Yeah,
Fein.
it's pronounced Sinn Fein. So it's like kind of fine as in like the F, the Fein is like FAY. So it's
Okay.
close enough. It's close enough. Anyway,
All right. Yeah.
next up,
Okay. Greenpeace.
Greenpeace.
Oh
I
my
want to
god.
put them in pathetic.
They they really are pathetic. Like they're just
I
a
mean,
they're even yeah. I,
their biggest success was like getting themselves sunk by the French.
yeah. At least they have their own navy. They have that going for them.
Yeah,
Not a lot of these groups
yeah,
have their own navies.
yeah. But to be honest, though, it's the whole Rainbow Warrior incident was less like epic win for them and more of like it kind of demeaned the French. That why did you bother?
Yeah.
So yeah, pathetic it goes.
Yeah. Uh, Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. Nobody likes getting their door knocked on and being told about our Lord and Savior. It's
Hmm.
very terroristic indeed.
And also for me, it's just like the whole the whole thing with like them basically they're funny really because they're like they want to stay out the state, right? They don't vote.
Mm,
They usually don't vote.
yeah.
But the funny thing is, rather the funny thing is, while they want to be closed off from society, from the state,
Mm,
they they're kind of, and for all their hate towards like the Catholic Church,
mm,
they do the same thing, man. Like they hide child predators, they hide
right.
murderers. So yeah, it's but then again, beyond those things though, they're relatively harmless, all things considered. So I know maybe fail or pathetic
Fail.
to
Fail.
fail.
Put them under PETA there.
Mm.
Um, Turfs.
Turfs.
J.K. Rowling. Um,
Uh,
yeah, I have to say that J.K. Rowling's tweets are pure cancer. Like they're like a mental disease that just infiltrates your mind and like kills brain cells. So
yeah, and
it's I mean it's they're pretty bad.
yeah,
But
and the funny thing is, even as we put her here as a joke, uh, they're not they're not like what the others. They're not kidding around when they say they don't like transgenders,
mm,
and they're basically like well, I don't know if it's really their fault, but there is a rather disturbing increase in like hate crimes against transgenders and
true.
non non and queer people basically in general in the UK, in part because JK and her and people like her. And the funny thing is there's a disturbing number of like British celebrities who seem to share their beliefs,
Yeah.
and it's spreading. It's in America now. So like and given how cultures around the world are already rather hostile to queer people, they could be quite dangerous.
Hmm.
I don't want to get. They're not based, but
Let's put
they
them.
are
Let's give them a.
dangerous.
Let's put it a high meh. They're
Jaime.
just a little bit better than the Taliban. Yeah.
Okay.
This
We,
is
we have to remember who these guys are again.
yeah. No,
Pakistan. They're in
this is
Pakistan.
Pakistan. ISIS Pakistan. ISIS Pakistan. I
Okay.
I cannot name a single thing they've done. I I'm
Let's
trying for the
fail
life of me. Like I don't even know. Like
who
who are
they
you
are.
guys? Yeah. I don't even know what this is. Oh my god.
Why are they there?
Um.
I mean, it looks like the run of the mill Islamist group.
Yeah, I can do a quick reverse search. We can like edit in post prod and
Yeah.
just check. Um.
Who are these guys?
Okay, so Jamai is okay. Continuing.
Okay.
Jam-
Jamia Islamia, for those of you who don't know, is a or was that again it's kind of confusing. They were the umbrella for Al Qaeda style Islamist terrorism in Southeast Asia. The thing is though, to be honest, I think a lot of like what was attributed to them gets is actually done by other people.
That's true. I
I
think that
think
they
part of
just
the problem with them is they're an umbrella.
yeah they're down here in the fail category.
Yeah.
Like who?
I argue they failed and they fail and it's because of their failure that you get things like ISIS in the first
That's
place.
true. Okay. MS-13.
Who are
Okay,
these dudes?
they're okay. Here's the thing. They're a Mexican gang, but the problem is
Mm,
that like we know that the top scorers are like the cartels. So
mm-hmm,
like these smaller gangs like MS-13, like
mm-hmm,
they're like they're like the the thugs you kill in video games. You know, the
mm-hmm,
level one enemies. I don't think
mm-hmm.
anyone cares.
So
Meh, meh,
meh.
yeah, meh. Let's put them. They're not that meh, but they're whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the People's Temple, Jim
Oh,
Jones.
here we go. Jim Jones. Jim Jones, like what the old that up until 9/11, he is known for the largest mass casualty like terror thing to
Yeah,
happen to Americans ever. And on the one hand, well, if leftists might like him because like he tried to put his his ideology into practice, not in the same way like modern the soy latte soy
yeah,
latte and leftists now who are basically just like talking smack online.
yeah,
This guy and it wasn't even necessarily like bad per se. Like he was fighting for racial equality and
yeah.
yeah, all that. It's just that I guess
Had
the
a bit of a
problem with
cocaine problem, you know.
and I guess the thing always with these kinds of charismatic groups is ego can like really short circuit things.
That's true. Pretty base though.
So
I'd say like
yeah, probably in the low based
yeah,
because he did in the end get a bunch of people killed
yeah.
just for his
It's
ego.
so infamous. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone knows this. Okay,
Hmm.
next. This is Boko Haram.
Oh, those guys.
Western
Their name literally translates as
Western
Western.
education is forbidden. I I think that like they're better than Al Shabaab for sure. You know, like
They're more yeah, they've managed to make a rather infamous name for
yeah,
themselves fighting in the Sahel.
and they're really strong too. I think like you know they're one of the biggest terrorist groups and most like actually capable of fighting. Um,
To the point, dude, that despite the coup d'etats in like Mali, where you'd think like the military have absolute power there now, they're
yeah,
gaining ground.
yeah,
These guys, these Boko Haram people.
and like they're whole like image and idea is very captivating. You know, like it sticks to your head. Like, whoa, Boko Haram.
Mm.
Like, no Boko for you. And
I
it's
mean,
like,
just the name, either in its original African or in the English translation, is just absolute hilarity. Like
yeah,
Western education is forbidden. That's a very specific thing to be against,
yeah,
which
exactly.
which makes me think, did the leaders like fail in an exam or something?
Probably, dude. They just really
So
don't like school. They
they
don't
don't
want
like
to.
school. Even their yeah. Now that you're looking at their logo, like that's a book
Yeah,
in the middle,
I think it's
right?
supposed to be the Quran. Yeah, but
Oh,
it
where
could
did
be
we
like a
put
school
these
textbook.
guys? Actually, I was thinking, is that a school textbook they're about to chop? Because like there's this line in
Oh yeah, what
between.
the heck? Yeah, you're right.
There's this line in between, and I was thinking initially, is that a sword? And they're gonna chop the book? They must really hate Western education then.
They must really hate going to school.
So where do we put these guys though?
I think I think they're great, dude. They're awesome,
Terrific.
terrific. Let's put them. They're not as horrible as or awesome as furries, so let's put them in between TikTok and furries.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
NPAs,
NPA.
you people's army.
You know, I don't know what to say. Like, communism is just so underpowered in this patch. Like, I wanna give them credit, but it's like, dude, like, what have they achieved? They've been around for so long, and it's like they're like losing members, and like they just have like nobody cares. Nobody cares about them anymore. Or it's like
Dude, this
they're
is. Mm, go on.
there's some serious threat inflation like from the government and red tagging and all of that, but it's like, dude, like it's like the average Ateneo like yuppie gonna go join the NPA in 2023. I don't think so.
I'll I
Yeah,
to cement, I guess the fail, and that's where I put these guys. Compare and contrast NPA propaganda music to Soviet propaganda music.
fair, fair.
It's it's just sad. I mean, I guess like they were trying to go for the whole romanticism of
Mm,
the farmer and romanticism of the countryside, but that's not what you want for your supposed people's army. You
true.
wanna like you were talking about vibes and music from Hezbollah, right?
Yep.
NPA does the opposite.
Yeah.
You do not feel inspired to go to war, or like yeah, they don't even meet the macho communist aesthetic.
Yeah.
And say what you will about that, whether that's a good thing to criticize them for, but to be honest, if you're talking about recruitment and making yourself palatable, if you don't have good music, you
Yeah.
don't got nothing. So
Sorry.
fail.
Sorry, guys. You go right here above the ISIS
Above the
women's
ISIS
faction.
women's battalion.
Okay.
Okay.
Next is Rajneesh
Ah,
Puram, aka
yeah,
Osho.
Osho. Yeah, these guys. These guys. These. I mean, were you able to watch the down the rabbit hole
Yep,
video of
I
this
watched it.
before
I watched it.
before it got taken down?
Oh,
These are
they removed it.
yeah, dude. They were striking Frederick Knudsen
Oh my
nonstop.
god.
So that's the thing about them that's actually sort of terrifying. That they are very litigious bastards.
They're yeah, that's terrible. That's scary.
But when you look though at their actual attempts at terrorism, if you remember that video, it's like, God damn, you guys
Yeah.
are dumb.
I
And that was just to like try to get some random hick town in Oregon, I think. Yeah, in the US
yeah,
state Oregon. So like, eh.
they're incredibly cringe and annoying.
Hell,
I think that if you have to rely on the state to like sue people for your terror, you kind
yes.
of suck.
Dude, not even a state, man. They're not even a corpo. They're relying on an algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They need to up their game. Also, I hate Osho.
Yeah.
That guy's so annoying.
Who's this guy? Who's
This
these
is
guys now?
Scientology. Scientology. Um,
Oh right, the quintessential like new age religion that soothes people to oblivion.
yeah, another incredibly cringe group. Um, I
I guess they go to
yeah. What do you?
well. On the one hand, I'm tempted to put them in fail, but then again, on the other hand, they seem to be able to back up their litigious threats more.
Let's put them in meh.
But meh, yeah, just put them in meh.
Okay.
Oh, because they are meh now. Like
Yeah.
basically ever since L. Ron Hubbard died.
True. True. Okay. Just stop oil.
Pathetic.
They are pathetic. They're the most. These guys are the most annoying. Like, just do actual terrorism, guys. Like seriously.
Cringe.
This
They're
is
just
like
cringe, man.
incredibly cringe,
They're the ultimately cringe.
dude. Like, yeah. I I can't talk about how annoying these guys are. It's like throwing paint on like classical
Paintings.
paintings, gluing your hand to the street. Like, get a life, dude. Seriously. Okay.
It's yeah.
Um. All right. So we're moving on to the. This is China.
Heavy hitters now.
Yeah.
Yeah, communist specifically the Communist Party, not the people of
Yeah.
China, just the Communist Party.
So they graduated from being essentially rebels to being
Mm-hmm.
a full-fledged state, which is still
Mm-hmm.
committing acts of terrorism.
Mm-hmm. And
And
now they're on their way to becoming
yeah,
hegemon, or at
yep,
least a regional hegemon. So that actually puts them in a pretty big
yeah.
level, I guess.
We'll put them in terrific. They get
Yeah,
minus points because, like, they're just so banal. You know, they become like
yeah,
part of the background of the world. Like you, don't, I'm not scared when I think of
yes.
them. They're just they are what they are. You know.
I would, yeah, and also they've arguably, well, they're succeeding for themselves, I suppose. But if you think of what they were originally formed for,
True.
which is world communism,
Yep.
they betrayed the revolution.
Yeah.
So I mean, the ultimate betrayal is they're just becoming another. At best, they're becoming another hegemon. At worst, they're gearing up to be the next imperialist.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Okay. Next.
furry
Nazi
Nazis,
Nazi werewolves.
furry Nazis. Yeah,
Um, furry Nazis.
specifically, yeah, this is the werewolf group. The basically the remnants of the Nazis.
Yeah,
I think
depending
the
on how deep you want to go and how much you want to interpret this, they may or may
hmm.
not have a secret base in Antarctica and access to Hyperborean like space technology. So
You're forgetting the moon base,
yeah,
man.
and the moon base and the moon base.
You're forgetting the moon base and the Gotterdammerung.
Yep. Gotterdammerung.
Hmm.
Um.
So where do we put these guys?
Hmm. I.
And if we base it on the Iron Sky interpretation, they
Yeah,
deserve
that's
at
the
least a
thing.
base.
Like, I,
But the real life guys are rather
yeah, I think that they're just like random dudes. Um,
they're meh.
let's just put them in. Let's give them a high meh, right next to
Yeah.
J.K.
Right
Rowling
next to
there.
J.K. Rowling
Okay. Um.
were these guys.
Islamic Revolutionary Guard, Iran.
Oh, the Iranians.
Um. Yeah. So Iranians, well, they're more or less orchestrating like the majority of, you know, like they're kind of orchestrating Hezbollah. They're orchestrating like Houthis. They're like Mossad level.
Yeah. Yeah, they're basically like they're basically like Iran's answer to Mossad.
Yeah.
Not just in real life, but even in memory. Like base I don't mean memory TV.
Oh
But
yeah.
basically like but basically like if ever anything happens in the Middle East, they are always in consideration. Like it's them or something.
True.
So probably in the base tier, I guess,
Let's put them like right here next to Mossad.
right next to Mossad.
Okay. Um,
Who are these dudes?
Alcohol Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Ah, ATF.
Yeah. So they may or may not be involved with a lot of like drug running that actually happens in the U.S. So they have that going for them, and they're just a bit unknown. They're a bit too unknown, I think.
Usually for like conspiracy people and like yeah, conspiracy people, they usually remember ATF for their climactic battle with David Koresh,
Right, right.
which funnily enough we didn't put him here, but oh well. So probably in the meh,
Meh.
because
Yeah,
they still
meh.
exist. They
Yeah,
still exist, but yeah, they're just like another run-of-the-mill government three-letter agency.
yeah. Okay. Sendero Luminoso, Shining Path.
The Shining
Uh,
Path. Yeah. The
another
original narco terrorists.
yeah, another fail group, but I mean they pioneered narco terrorism.
Yeah.
So, I mean they've got that going for them. Um
But what happened to them now, though?
they're disbanded already. They
Oh,
were I'm pretty sure they're not active anymore. Or maybe they might
hold
be.
on.
You can like check.
Let me check. Okay, the party is still alive.
Okay.
The party itself looks like it's still alive. But but a lot of it's defunct now. So,
Mm,
yeah.
I, you know they okay. Credit where credit is due. Cool name, cool branding, but nobody really knows about you, and you're not active
Yes,
anymore.
and
And it,
yeah, you're not active.
I'm pretty sure they didn't achieve anything. So
Oh yeah, they're basically in splinters. They're basically
mm,
in splinter groups. Yeah.
they're over here with FARC.
Yep.
Um, okay, so LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, transgender, and all the identities. Um,
All the identities that the far right people don't
yeah,
like.
so they're causing terror to far rights and conservatives just by existing, basically, and like
Mm-hmm.
um, causing a lot of like social discord in the
Mm.
internets. So
Yeah. But beyond that, though,
yeah, as far as like leftist metas go, the
mm,
LGBTQA plus Black Lives Matter, transgender, etc., is
mm-hmm.
definitely like trending right now in the meta. It's like the prime
Mm-hmm.
build for like terror. So
It's like your default one of the default identity you gotta have if you're creating a leftist character.
yeah, exactly. Uh, so oh yeah, there was that one transgender like school shooter now. So they're now branching out and like multi-classing as well. So
Yeah, but until they hit the big leagues, though, where do we put them?
they can be in they can be in based for me. What do you think? Or you want meh,
Well,
meh maybe?
I'm thinking because you only start graduating in the base if you're able to like going by the rules of of this tier.
That's true.
You gotta have a big impact. The
That's
thing is,
true.
right now they're kind of just a boogeyman for
That's true.
the far right.
Threat inflation galore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
Until I see
meh.
people like getting forced change surgery, then they're not graduating.
Basically like all the
All the far right,
wild
yeah,
nightmares
yeah, all the wild,
of the far.
the far right nightmares need to come true, then they can graduate.
Mhm.
Okay, Tamil Tigers. Um, awesome logo, but they suck. They they got defeated by the Sri Lankan military, and they are completely disbanded. I think at this point.
Yeah, it's not even and ultimately even their downfall was not particularly epic or planning
I think
epic.
that they just like somehow like lost hold of their weapons or something, and the army just like invaded and like captured them all. Pretty bad.
Yeah, so fail.
Sorry guys, I'm really
Yeah,
sorry,
this
but
goes straight into fail.
you're failures. Okay, PMC Wagner.
Oh,
Okay,
these guys.
well, what can I say? Like Russia's they, I mean they okay. Prisoners and murderers as cannon fodder, epic. Um, they have a skull, awesome design
Mm-hmm.
logo. They're
Mm-hmm.
like pretty. They were kind of non-state actors.
They're basically like quasi state.
Yeah, they're
Because
like
remember, they had their own parallel everything. They have their own parallel logistics,
yep,
parallel payroll, and even parallel income. Man, they're yeah, sure. The the Russian government pays them,
yeah,
but at the same time, they also have all that gold and
yeah,
oil stuff in Africa.
yep. Prigozhin
But
is
then yeah, go
yeah,
on.
Prigozhin's insanely rich or was insanely rich. Depending on who you talk to, he may or may not be living on a island in the Caribbean with Elvis right now, and all the other
Or
people
it's
who
a
died mysteriously in plane crashes.
or it's a clone.
Yeah, or it's a clone. Yeah.
Or he's preparing he's preparing like what you call that he's preparing phase two of his heresy.
Yeah. Um, for me, terrific. They're terrific.
All right.
Or
Well, I mean they are. I mean their name, for better and for worse, gets reaction.
that's true. They're
Like
definitely on.
remember before the invasion, nobody even knew who the heck they were,
That's a good
except
point.
unless you of course you were studying what Russia was doing.
True.
So now they're a household name for better or for worse. So yeah, I guess you could put them in terrific. They've earned that taste, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, the KGB slash FSB slash Russian
Mm-hmm.
Intelligence Services
Mm-hmm.
slash NKVD, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um. Well, depending on who you talk to, this is one of those
Mm-hmm.
gray areas.
Yeah.
I guess they're up there with the other intelligence agencies.
Well, yeah, if we're talking about all of them across the entire history of the state that we call Russia, yeah, you could probably put them there because yeah, they matched the CIA in a lot of stuff, and in many ways, dude, they actually out gambited the CIA at least in terms of like human intelligence, like how far they penetrated to the point like yeah, sometimes like if you ask the conspiracy people, you would say like especially I think with like the whole cultural Marxism thing,
Yep.
like they're basically planting it on the KGB, like feeding the academe or stuff like that. So if you believe that stuff, then yeah, they've got big impact.
True.
Probably, actually, I'd argue they have more impact than the CIA
Yeah.
because what you all that if what you like hear about them is true, like yeah, they basically planted critical Marxism, like race
Yeah.
theory and all that stuff. Then that kind of makes them more based than the CIA
That's true. That's a
in
good
that
point.
they've managed to plant influence long after they're dead, officially as an org.
Yeah.
It's just that FSB right now, if you look at what happened and what led to Ukraine, it's just like they're just
Yeah.
not a good inheritor of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you look at the whole thing of what KGB did, I would argue minimum based is the minimum. You could
That's,
argue for more though.
I think, terrific. I'm sold
Yeah.
on the cultural Marxism. Put them
The
up here.
cultural Marxism.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And that's the list. Awesome.
Yeah.
We did it.
We
All
did
right.
it, guys.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks to Ilka for having.
Yeah.
Or you
Thanks
could like,
for yeah, thanks for being
yeah,
here.
yeah. So, what are you doing next?
Okay, let's stop the recording.
Mm-hmm.